this is Emily Zavala. I'm the subject area coordinator of mental health and wellness for Eastside Union High School District. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm going to chat with you for a few minutes today about talking to your teenager. All right. So the goal will be to look at our own communication style, because you always have to start with how do I communicate if you want someone else to communicate differently. Learn to leave the training with tips to be an active listener and feeling confident in your capacity to listen to your teen without judgment, which can be really hard as a parent. So just think about the role models that you had that modeled communication for you. What did these people do to communicate with you? Think about a time that somebody cared for you and had a negative effect on your behavior or feelings. What did that person do or not do, and how did they communicate? So just kind of like thinking about the things that shape us and communicating styles. So this is an activity. So since you're watching from home, we're going to go ahead and skip over to active listening. We listen to other people all the time, but how often do we really pause and tune into what they're saying? Most of us as humans listen to respond, meaning that we're not really listening to take in information, but we're listening so that we can make our point, especially with our kiddos. There's a big difference between processing information and truly listening with our minds and our hearts open. And this step is what takes us from hearing them to being an active listener. So developing the skill is particularly important when you're talking to teens who are hard to talk to in the first place. So the more open you are, the more active you are in your listening process, the more likely they are to open up. And part of that is also suspending judgment. One of the biggest complaints we hear as social workers at our school sites is that my dad or my mom never listens to me. Often we're quick to respond with advice or judgment, and that actually shuts down the communication that's happening with your teenager. So instead of judgment, we want to kind of shift to active listening. Teens are not always going to speak openly about their challenges. In fact, they probably won't, because it's part of their normal development. When parents take the time to listen actively, rather than thinking about their response, you may be surprised what teens actually do share and open up about. So try to remove as many distractions as possible. The best conversations happen while driving or doing an activity like a chore together, and stop and focus on your child with your undivided attention, meaning put your own phone down and be present for what they're saying to you. Also, demonstrating an interest will help kids open up. Body language speaks really loud. So visually tell your team that you're focused on what they're saying by putting down your phone, like I just gave you an example of, turning off the TV, turning down the music. When we're practicing active listening, we're not saying anything, we're demonstrating that we're tuned into what's being said. So maintaining eye contact, responding appropriately by paraphrasing when they're done talking, or actually taking a moment to pause. And then you can even say, to clarify, so what I'm hearing is, I hear that you felt really left out today with the way that the girls were treating you at school, something like that, to reflect back to make sure you got what they said. When you demonstrate your interests visually, then it makes it safer for your teens to open up. So try not to interrupt. We often go into teaching mode as parents, instructing how they should or should not be behaving. Try to stay away from words like should. That creates already like this sense of judgment about how they handled something, making it less safe for them to speak about what their experience was. And listening mindfully, being present in the moment, like we talked about. Watching your teen learn painful lessons, big and small, is super hard. And having a preteen myself, I can identify with how hard it is to raise teenagers. I feel like nobody warns you about that part. They tell you that when they're little babies and when they're 2, they're hard. They don't tell you when they're 12 or 14 or 16, they're hard. And I think they're actually harder. So I'm glad that you're on here to learn about just some ways to improve that communication. It's also proven to boost teen mental health and decrease teen substance use when they have an open communication with their parents. And mindfully listening means focusing on the words you're hearing right now in the present moment, regardless of the issues in the past, which can also be hard. So some open-ended questions. Tell me more about that. How did that make you feel? What made you pursue that option? Or what can I do to help? Another one that I really love is, are you looking to just have me listen, or do you want advice? So clarifying if they want feedback. Avoid asking questions that are judgments, like why would you do that? Or you could, kind of change that to what motivated you to do that, or kind of what was that about? Instead of saying you didn't really mean that, did you? Try asking, what did you mean when you said that? Instead of that doesn't make sense, try asking, I'm not quite following what you meant by that. Could you please explain more? So just shifting the words that we use will encourage more opening up. So being heard is really big for our kiddos. It's why we employ social workers across the district, 2 per school site, because our main job is to listen to kids all day. And then tips for being a good listener: validating, expressing empathy, holding space instead of solving the problem is a big one. Clarifying with your teen the type of support they need. Do you want me to listen, or do you want me to help with solutions? So those are all. You can pause these at any time because we're on video and read these a bit more. We're not in groups, so we're not going to do the active listening exercises. But thank you so much for tuning in to listening to your teen. Hopefully you took something from the many slides that were here today, and hopefully you have a great conversation with your kiddo following this. Thanks.